Hey, welcome to Resilient Automotive Performance. Today, we are going to be checking out some of the fuel modifications that we're doing to our Project Conquest and how I ended up cleaning the fuel system on the car. Let's check it out. So first thing we did was remove the fuel tank. And while removing, I made sure to keep everything I had from the removal nice and bagged up, or just in quick places that I could locate things as I was working through my fuel tank and the fuel system. So of course, you're making a video talking about how you repaired and prepared your gas tank for double the horsepower, and I totally forgot to cover the cleaning portion. I just used some Simple Green and some Meguiar's car wash to clean the exterior, and I kept everything on there. I made sure to not really get too aggressive or scrub with any of the electronics, but got the majority of the exterior of the fuel tank degreased, got all the major clumps of dirt. So for inside of the tank, I just used some Dawn dish soap, used some of the Dawn inside, got it nice and soapy and sudsy, cleaned up on the bottom end. On the bottom end of the tank, you would see a 1/2-inch drive to a bolt that allows you to drain the bottom of the tank. This should be pretty universal on most gas tanks. I would think either a 1/2-inch or a 3/8 drive, just be able to click up some type of torque wrench or breaker bar to undo that. Maybe spray some PB Blaster to make sure it's nice and loose so you're not stripping anything. That would be a bad day on your fuel tank. Now in my case, I used just some Rust-Oleum Professional High Performance Enamel. Just gave some problematic areas a quick spray. First one heavy coat and then 3 light coats. In this case, the filler neck in return were a little crusty and had rust, as well as some rust inside of the neck. So I took care of that, re-cleaned it, and now I'm at the portion where I currently have it on order, but a product that once you've completely cleaned it inside and out and you've let it air dry and you've used some type of compressed air to get as much moisture out of there as possible, there's a handful of different products that you can use to put inside the tank, refill this thing with gas, and then pump out that testing fuel to get all the moisture out of the tank. And this is the process I'm using to clean out this tank. And I will be using the old fuel pump as well as the pickup to run some new fuel through with the anti-moisture solvent to get all the excess water out of the fuel tank, pump it out using the old pump so I don't hurt the new high-performance fuel pump, and to extract and clean everything thoroughly through the gas tank. Now, removing the fuel tank definitely isn't the easiest job. You're going to want to use a jack in order to support the bottom of the fuel tank. There's going to be multiple 14, 12, and size 10 bolts holding this thing in place, as well as everything that holds the filler neck in place and the actual bracket that holds the fuel pump in place, as well as then connects to the vehicle. So what you guys will notice is there's a shroud that typically goes here as well. There are 4 of these bolts holding into place. You're going to have to remove that so that you can take out the neck and get access to the plate that holds the filler neck in place. Next up from there was removing the old fuel pump. What you're seeing currently is the new fuel pump. Here is the old fuel pump. You are going to notice there are some differences in how the connections run and how it supplies the fuel to the vehicle. It is on the vehicle as well. Here are the fuel lines for the return, the evap, and that small little silver thing you're seeing up there is the supply. That is not particularly easy to disconnect from the fuel pump, so make sure to hit that with some PB Blaster to loosen that thing up. Now luckily, when you install your new fuel pump, it's not going to be the same threaded connection. You're just going to be using some new fuel line to attach to that same supply piping. Alright, so the tank is clean inside and out. Next, we finally get to the fun part, the modifications. We have a brand new fuel pump that's going to allow us to support just about north of 350 horsepower on the Conquest. This is a fuel pump from Top End Performance. Steve and the gang over there does supply you with a very in-depth pump installation document, as well as we also ordered some fuel clips for our fuel injectors. It's very simple. I ended up being able to skip the majority of it because the fuel tank was out. There's also a little noise box that typically mounts right where you can see, here we go. Typically mounts right here, so you're gonna have to eliminate that. It comes off really easy. Just undo this screw and you can basically yank it off, and just with some clippers cut the wires, undo the bracket, and the old pump comes out. Now I'm not going to be reusing much of anything from the old pump or any of these fuel and vacuum lines. All this is going to get replaced. In my case, it's pretty easy, just a complete uninstall. Now the thing you are going to have to do is take the existing wiring loom. Gonna have to cut off from the old pump, and now in my case, use some heat wrap and made myself up some new connections. There's a ton of really good ways and things on YouTube in order to how to do this well, but ultimately not too hard. You can use a lighter or a heat gun. I would definitely recommend heat gun just for consistency, not to burn up the wire. They supply everything from the connections to the isolation boots that you're seeing, and so as well as the new line that you're going to connect to the existing hard fuel line on the car, as well as these little clamps. So you get the new fuel pump in, get it wired up, definitely get some heat shrink on there, try to make this look as professional as possible, then routed the boots on top. You can see that the heat wrap is captured within the isolation cap in there as well. Make sure you get the wiring color correct. That was something I accidentally reversed, and luckily I'd given myself enough length on the power and ground wire so that I could redo it. But in the notes, you have black and yellow is power, and then just black is ground, and you can even see on the posts which is negative. This one's getting a little covered up, but the positive end's on this side. So with the fuel pump installed, the only modification was to this plastic shield that ultimately just goes right over and connects, and you'll have the evap line and the return line that just pop right on top there to help route those lines. I just took a Dremel, open it up, swipe it more to accept the line. Unlike with the old stock fuel line right here, this one is slightly shifted to the left, and so just gave it a little bit more room so it'll be easier to handle when I'm reinstalling. Still need to come in here and just clean up these edges to make sure nothing's rubbing or would cut the fuel line before I do the complete reinstall. So overall, to get the fuel system to this point has taken about 4 hours. So that's getting under the vehicle, jacking it up, removing the fuel tank, getting the bits off, cleaning the inside and out, cleaning the components as well, installing the fuel pump. That's got me at about 4 hours, and I imagine reinstalling, getting everything else hooked up back onto the Conquest, which as you can see is still right in the middle of getting repaired. It's probably going to take about another 2 hours to get everything located and back together, but because I retained all the bolts, took pictures, and now just waiting on a few components, should be a pretty quick reinstall process. So lastly, before I actually reinstall the fuel tank, I'm going to be refreshing as much as I can, including the fuel filter, cleaning up the float, any of the electrical connections and the fuel connections. As you can see, these were capped while I was doing external cleaning, as well as the one that's currently uncapped was capped. This thing on the outside may look clean, but the minute you get really close, there are little particles all over that thing. And that's how it came out from the fuel tank that never saw water or any of the cleaning agents that I was using. All this stuff, I mean, you can get a slight idea here on the fuel pump, was just covered in dirt, and that's just to be expected. This is going to be a road car. It's going to see dirt. It's going to see road grime. So gave everything a good quick scrub, again, just with soapy water and a brush, and got after it. Elbow grease to get these guys cleaned up. And they will be looking good as new, and replacing the fuel filter while everything is out. That's going to be the easiest time to do it. Lastly, any of this rust, I'm going to be going over just with a black anti-rust primer, especially here at the neck. I don't want to have any rust have any chance of getting into the fuel tank. That's a no-go. It's going to immediately cause problems, especially for the injectors. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to leave a comment down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. It's the best way to support me in Resilience Automotive Performance. Tons of new content coming out on the Project Conquest. We're going to be having this buttoned up by September. So you'll be continuing to see content coming in over the next couple weeks and probably through the end of the year on the Conquest, as well as check out some of the other stuff we got going on. I'm working on my personal Forerunner and installing a plug-and-play ECU to make more power. So if you're interested in tuning and setting up a standalone ECU or a plug-and-play ECU, that'll definitely be a series to watch. Thank you guys so much for your support. Again, please like and subscribe, and you guys have a good one.